covering the world of professional wrestling from post to post. A show for the Busted Open Nation. This is the Nation's Corner. Here are your hosts, Front Row, Debhausen and Hijacker Mike.
What's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to the Nation's Corner. I am Front Row, as always, joined by Debhausen, the Great and Powerful. Deb, what's going on? Oh, real quick, we're going to be joined shortly by Hijacker Mike, who's on location. I think he's doing some sporting stuff with his family, so he's going to be joining us soon. But we had a heck of a weekend last weekend, and we're going to talk about that, as well as some of the upcoming shows. There's a ton of wrestling content going on this weekend. It's a jam-packed weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and just a lot happening in the week. So have you recovered yet?
Somewhat. It's been a transition into being exhausted from the weekend to being exhausted from work. So I'm almost there. I need like one more day to sleep in, and then I'll be there.
Yeah, it took me about 2 days to get all rested up, but my throat is still sore. We had just a long weekend of yelling and singing, and there was a lot of cigars and maybe some alcohol. I can neither confirm nor deny that a lot of alcohol was consumed. But it was a lot of fun. So for folks who don't know or didn't see the social media posts, we were at Baltimore Celeb Fest 2. A smaller group of us went to the first Celeb Fest earlier this year in May. And it was a lot of fun. We had so much fun that we got a much larger group together this time of the Busted Open Nation members. I think there was over 20 of us there, maybe close to 25. We pretty much took over a hotel for the weekend. And we met a lot of other Nation members at the event, too. So the Nation was out in big numbers, and it was pretty cool. So I want to talk a little bit about the travel and the trip and the whole thing, but the purpose for us being there was for the meet and greets, right? It was a Celeb Fest was primarily wrestling, and there was a lot of big names there. There's a lot of cool people, some familiar faces, some people we had met before, and some people that were first time. Especially for me, there was a couple people I got to meet for the first time that I was excited to meet. Mm-hmm. So of all the folks that you met last weekend, who was your best encounter?
I definitely think Enzo and Cass. We met Enzo when we went to Baltimore last May at Jimmy's Seafood. We met him, and we have a pop, the double pop of Enzo and Cass that we wanted them to sign, and I wanted to wait till we saw them both together to have them both sign at the same time. So we brought it to us when we went to the Icons of Pro Wrestling in Philly. When was that? Last month? Yeah, last month. And Cass ended up not being there. He had Impact tapings that day. So we didn't have Enzo sign it then. We wanted to wait till we got both of them. So they were both there this time, and so we got them both to sign it at the same time and had a little conversation. We were like second in line, and Enzo's amazing as always. Cass was super nice. I told him that I missed seeing him in Philly, and that's when he said he had Impact tapings to do. Yeah, they were both very gracious. Cass is definitely as tall as he looks on TV. Me and Seth are very short. I'm 5'2", Seth is 5'3". Enzo's really not much taller than us. So the three of us standing next to Cass was interesting. Like the guy who took the picture, shout out to Doug's his name, right?
Yeah.
Enzo's friend Doug. Yeah, he probably had to like angle the camera a little different to get Cass in the picture. But yeah, they were both really great. And we met Velvet Sky as well. Seth got an autograph and a picture with her. So I cannot confirm nor deny how long the look lingered. I will not. I plead the fifth. basically. So, but yeah, she was super nice. We got a nice picture of her. So yeah, those were the two. Unfortunately, all the AEW people that we were looking forward to see had to cancel because of AEW being on Saturday last weekend. Unfortunately, originally most of the people that we were going to get pictures and autographs with weren't there, but we still had an amazing time.
That's awesome. So I see Hijacker Mike is joining us too. Let me bring him in and have him talk a little bit about his experience in Baltimore. Welcome to the show, Hijacker.
What's up, guys? What's going on? Can y'all hear me proper?
Yep, we got you.
Cool. How is everybody today?
Good. So we were just talking about some of the folks that we got to meet at the meet and greet in Baltimore last weekend. Who are some of the folks that you got to meet that you were happy to do so?
Cool. I'll get with you guys there. But first, I would just like to say it was a pleasure meeting everybody front row. I know we've met a couple times or once before, and we're supposed to meet a second time in Las Vegas, but unfortunate travel situations delayed us and canceled us out. But it was great, Deb. It was great meeting you and Seth and the rest of the family, Chad, R.A., Chris. It was great to meet everybody in person finally after a year and a half on Zoom together. It's been great. That was the key to my weekend there with everybody, was to be able to sit and talk individually with everybody, one-on-one, face-to-face. That you couldn't beat that. Celebrity Fest 2 was beautiful. It was great as well. But nothing beat meeting everybody in the nation that you talk with, hang out with on Zoom, watch wrestling, do the shows with. You can't beat that. But I will talk about Celebrity Fest. My favorite, I had quite a few there. Meeting the Godfather, talking with him. We're both from the West Coast. Las Vegas for him, Oakland, California for me. Was great. Also got to meet the Steiner brothers. That was another one. I just wish Big Papa Pump would have had his little metal mesh, whatever you call that unit, over his head. That would have been great to have him had that, but he was throwing up the NWO, and I had my NWO face mask, so that was a beautiful shot there. Got a chance to meet the lovely Mickie James, which was another bucket list of meeting professional wrestlers. But the number one point for me was when I met Sergeant Slaughter. I asked this man, can you say something about maggots? And he said, shut up, you maggot. You can't say it. I can't say it, you puke. That made my day, because I'm sitting there rolling. I almost fell on the floor when he told me that. And he shook my hand, asked me how I was doing. And I told him, hey, man, your great work over the years was great, man. You stood up for our country. You made all our people proud in America to be proud to follow you. Thank you. And it was just great to stand there and shake that man's hand and take a picture next to him at Baltimore Celebrity Fest. And JBL was another one on the list for me as well.
Yeah. So that's an interesting point you bring up, because throughout the pandemic, a lot of us sort of got to meet online, at a distance, and we were on Zoom and on Discord and on social media, and a lot of people got to interact and become friendly, and then became real life friends, right? So there's a whole, the Busted Open Nation is this huge network of cool people, and to finally get to these events, and it's different groups of people at the different events. Like, we were in Buda, we've been in Baltimore a couple times, we've been to the NWA tapings, folks have been in Philly, just all over the country. People are getting together, sort of under the umbrella of the Busted Open Nation, which is really neat. And I know we were sending Dave LaGreca pictures throughout the weekend. I think they posted some of them on their social media, but it's this feeling of family and, getting the opportunity to get together as a group. This was the biggest group that we've assembled yet. I think almost 25 people, which is a new record for us. As Mrs. Front Row says, the Nation World Tour 2021. And it's funny because I actually have a friend who is in Scotland who listens to Busted Open podcast, and she's coming to the NWA tapings. So we have people outside the country here. There's people all over the place that are part of the nation. So it's maybe the Busted Open International team. I don't know, something like that. We'll workshop that a little bit. But yeah, so for me, it was really cool meeting. There was a few people that I got to pull up with. Like, I did get to talk to Mickie James. I've met Mickie before. I spent some time with her at the NWA Empower pay-per-view and that whole weekend. And there's my interview with her is on our YouTube channel. But she was an hour late through no fault of her own. So we stood in line as a group. And when she came in, man, the pop in the room was huge. Like, people were super excited to see her. And the respect from her peers, like JBL was signing. He got up from his signing table, came over and showed her respect. Luke Gallows, just 3 or 4 other people that I saw come over and leave their signings to come over and greet her, shows me sort of, the level of legend and respect that people have from in the industry. And I thought that was pretty cool. But I also did get to meet JBL, and JBL's an interesting guy because his on-screen character is, he's a bad guy, he's a heel. But behind the scenes, he does a lot of charity work. He does a lot of stuff. And I know, we know friend of the show, Sam Roberts, who worked, a lot with JBL on the pre-shows and stuff. And he said, JBL is like a great guy. So getting a chance to sit and talk with him for like 4 or 5 minutes. And I did like him a lot. And I told him, I thought that some of his mic work, some of his broadcast work may alone have qualified him for Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
Yeah. So
he was really cool. But I think the guy that I was looking forward to meeting the most, and I did meet Will Ospreay briefly, as well as Mercedes Martinez, both very nice, but they were both brief meet and greets. But I think I was one of the first people in line to meet Nick Gage. He was they were still setting his stuff up. And man, and I was wearing my Sam Roberts shirt. So and he had done Sam's podcast recently. So we had a brief conversation about that. But he was really nice. And one of the reasons I was looking forward to meeting him is obviously I'm not a deathmatch guy, but we, Mrs. Front Row and I and Trenda were in Charlotte here for his match with Chris Jericho on Dynamite. And it was really good. There's an art form to real deathmatch wrestling. And he puts psychology and technique into his matches where it's not just gratuitous violence. Yeah. It's not for everyone, but it's there if you look for it. So he was pretty cool to meet. And and for him, I remember, and I mentioned this earlier to Mrs. Front Row on the virtual signing that he did with High Spots a couple months ago. He cut a pro LGBTQ promo. And if anybody who watches GCW knows, they are very pro the community, right? Effie's home there. Personally, for me, that's a big checkbox in the win column. So he was really cool to meet. But I did want to touch on some of the other stuff that we did that weekend. So as I mentioned, we rolled in Thursday night. I think we sort of trickled in here and there. And by the end of 10, 11 o'clock, we had taken over the patio and pretty much the lobby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Shout out to Justine at the Marriott, because they basically just let us do whatever we wanted. They didn't complain. They didn't say, hey, keep it down. They let us have free reign and accommodated us to the fullest and kept asking if we needed anything. Shout out to them.
Yeah, so Mrs. Monroe put in the chat here, the pizza cutter. Nick Gage did sign my pizza cutter, and a lot of us brought pizza cutters. He was selling pizza cutters there to be signed, which is ironic because as we go through this story, you'll realize there was a lot of pizza that weekend.
Oh, I think we ordered it, the first 3 nights, or actually all 3 nights we were
all
there,
3
Thursday,
nights.
Friday, and Saturday, it was pizza. I think the only night that we didn't have pizza was the night most everybody left, and there was just, I think, 8 of us. Everybody had something different than pizza that Sunday night with the remaining few, the Garzas, Money Mark, Chad, myself. Even though, I fell asleep, I was tired, I was exhausted, the West Coast time switch, getting 4 hours of sleep every night. I fell out, but they brought me something back to eat, and I actually had a Maryland crab cake burger. So that was kind of cool. They went back to the Green Turtle, and we hit that place up the second night there. So good eats, man. Great food out there in Baltimore. You know, even though we had pizza 3 nights, they were all good pizzas and nothing wrong with them at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, and shout out to the Turtle because they took care of us. They Chris was kind enough to arrange a private area for us to have a big setup. It was nice. The weather was beautiful. We were outside, and I think we were there for happy hour, which was happy 3 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Yes,
Roughly.
shout out to
we
the
were there
Green
for the whole
Turtle.
thing.
The Green Turtle's original location is in Ocean City, Maryland, where I frequent. So I have lots of experience in the Green Turtle. They're awesome.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun all weekend. We had some great food. We did a bunch of stuff. It was just an awesome weekend. So there's a lot more coming up. So if you're in the Busted Open Nation, if you're watching this show or you just follow us on social media, there are things going on around the country. There's other nation members you can link up with and have a good time. Bring your LaGreca heads, your Busted Open heads, unless they take them away at a WWE event, which happened to some people at support Adam recently. But bring them to everywhere else because they recommend it. So it's coming up. I think we've got WrestleCade is a couple days after Thanksgiving. That's going to be a big event. There's usually like 8,000 or 9,000 participants. 150, 160 wrestlers. They've got some huge names there this year. I know Steven's going. Miss Front Row and I are going. And Dave LaGreca and Mark Henry are going as well as part of the Nation Across the Nation tour. I think so. On WrestleCade weekend on Saturday, there's the meet and greets during the day, followed by the Super Show, which is a big 2 or 3 hour wrestling show with a bunch of people from the event. And then I think at 8:30 p.m. is the Busted Open event from 8:30 to 10, followed by a VIP meet and greet. So that's going to be a packed day. It's going to be a lot of fun. And on Sunday, they have a women's wrestling show, which they're calling Ladies Night Out, which is kind of funny because it's at 1 p.m. But it used to be hosted by Queens of Combat, but I don't think they're running right now. I think they're still on hiatus from the pandemic. So, but there's some really big names at that event. So if you're in the North Carolina, South Carolina, if you're in driving distance of Winston-Salem, it is a blast, and you'll meet everyone you've ever wanted to meet. They have a ton of AEW stars there, a lot of Hall of Famers. It's just going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Just so you know, Ladies Night Out is at 1 p.m. because they'll still be drinking that wine and sangria at 8 p.m.
If you don't mind, I'd like to throw a quick note. Big Time Wrestling, which everybody knows, BTW, I work for, their next show is December 3rd. That'll be a Friday out here in Newark, California. So if anybody's out in California, the Bay Area, you're welcome to come. Hit BT Wrestling CA on Twitter and get the information, or you can hit me up, Hijacker Mike, on Twitter at Mr. Mac. Let me know if you want to come out, man. I might be able to comp you some tickets if we're allowed to do it. Bring the family. It's a family environment. It's also a toy drive, so bring a toy and you can get a discount on the next show in January, usually for the Battle Royal.
That's awesome. Yeah, and if you're on the East Coast that weekend, December 3rd is 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th is NWA weekend at the GPB studios in Atlanta. And Mrs. Front Row and I will be there. Trenda, Neil, Sean, and his lovely wife, and possibly Money Mark. We're not really sure yet. But if you're interested in seeing the NWA live, it's a small venue. There's only a couple hundred tickets, and keep an eye out for when the tickets go on sale. Should be soon because they have a big pay-per-view tomorrow, or a big event tomorrow. We should have more information in the weeks coming. But there is stuff going on everywhere. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So Hijacker was kind enough to put together a slideshow for us. It's not too long, I promise. Just the right length for sharing vacation photos. But it's a fun slideshow of some of the stuff that we did over the weekend. So we're going to end our little segment with that. Hijacker, Deb, anything else before we move on?
No, that's it for me.
Cool.
Oh, man, it was a pleasure meeting everybody, like I said, for the first time. And I think that was the highlight of the weekend. We finally got to see each other's beautiful and ugly mugs in person.
Yeah, as they say, until next time, or until Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's check it out.
Oh.
Well, that looks like a good time.
Yeah, man, I'm surprised I missed all that fun. Oh wait, I was there, wasn't I?
Do you remember it?
Man, look,
We may not remember some.
as much as the adult beverages or daddy sodas, Mr. LaGreca would put it, a few minutes were hazy. Just a few, though.
Hey, I introduced Deb to boxed wine that weekend, so.
And we all got introduced to a nice new moonshine, dude. Moonshine
Yes.
we got introduced to this weekend as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful sip of moonshine. So, real quick, just for reference, here's the pizza cutter I mentioned.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on. We've got a bunch of news going on. There's a lot going on in the world of wrestling right now. We don't usually talk about, like, a lot of negativity, but this bothered me today. So Ryback had posted something about, he tagged Vince McMahon in a tweet saying, Mansoor can't get over even with Steve Austin's music. And he tagged Steve Austin because, of course, he's trying to get some sort of shine on himself. So Mansoor quote tweets it with a picture of a poll that Ryback had put up a while ago asking where people would like to see him. And it said retired. And that was 72%, which was tremendous. And Ali, Mustafa Ali also posted some stuff. And it just, I look at stuff like that, and I know they mentioned it on the show this morning, but it drives me crazy when someone like him, he could be going out there and using what platform he has remaining to raise others up and to raise awareness for people. And instead he tears people down trying to get a shine. And he got ratioed. If you look at the tweets, it was bad. Like he had like 800 likes, and I think Mansoor had like 35,000 likes. So it was bad.
Wow.
So something else I wanted to touch on, we watched, and we'll talk about this on the Smackdown coverage, but Smackdown ended with a title swap last night, and we weren't there. So I'm just going to tell you what we read, and then we'll move on from there. But, we read that there was a discussion between Charlotte and Becky, and some discrepancies behind the scenes about how the whole segment was supposed to go. I guess they had some real issues with the way that was supposed to go, and the decision was made by leadership that didn't matter. This is what we're going to do, and that is what they did. They just did a title swap, which made absolutely no friggin' sense to me. It was ridiculous. But then afterwards, there were reports from multiple sources, a couple I've spoken to, that there was a heated exchange backstage between them and the powers that be. So we can't speak to what happened behind the scenes, right? We weren't there. I'm just mentioning it to set the stage, because you have two of the best in the business. You've got Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, right? Two of the top stars. They could do so much more from a storyline perspective to exchange titles. They could have a tournament. They could vacate the titles and have other people, vie for those titles, whatever. But just to hand them over at the end of it. And this is the main event of a SmackDown on Fox, by the way. This isn't like a throwaway segment on YouTube. This is like big deal network TV. I don't know, Deb, Hijack, I don't know if you saw it, but I know Deb was watching it last night with us.
Yeah, I kind of have strong feelings about this as well. Like you said, it was the most ridiculous concept to just hand over their titles and switch them like that without even having any sort of match or anything like that. And if I were both of them, I'd be very upset about having to do that. I would have said, I earned this title. I didn't earn that one. I didn't do anything to win that one. I don't blame them if either of them are upset about having to do that. And I don't blame them for voicing their opinions about it.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it last night, but I heard about it from a coworker who watches wrestling with me, and I think they did a title swap at a draft period in the past. I believe it was the men's belt. I believe they did a title swap, or was it the tag belts? I think the Usos and the New Day did a title swap a year ago, 2 years ago, I believe, when they had both belts. I believe when they both were drafted to the respectful programs they went to during that draft, I think 2 years ago. But I don't understand why. Let them get in the ring. Let them battle it out. Whoever wins, let them choose, hey, I'm keeping this belt, or hey, I'm choosing that belt. I understand SmackDown is the blue brand, Raw is the red brand, and they want that belt respectively to that program. But they should have handled that a little better, because also, if you noticed, Charlotte Flair, is Andrade her fiance?
Yeah.
Or are they just
Yes, yes, they're engaged.
Yes.
Okay, well, he went on Twitter. If you guys saw his tweet, he put a FU WWE out there after this situation. And I was like, ooh, okay, it must have been real deep and really real between Becky and Flair for this to go down and for him to pop off like that himself.
And to your point, Hijacker, that tweet was at 8, not after the show. It was just after SmackDown started. So he said that before this segment happened. So this must have been after the disagreement behind the scenes about booking the show.
Wow.
Yeah, they must have had a discussion before the show. And yeah, whatever happened, obviously Andrade and Charlotte are not too pleased about it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna agree with Mrs. Front Row, not because she's my wife, but because this is a good idea. But I recognize good ideas. No, so, if you move up from NXT, like when Paige went from NXT to Raw, she had to vacate the NXT Women's Title. When people are promoted from NXT to the main roster, they have to vacate the title. When people go out on injury, they have to vacate the title. So if you're switching brands, why aren't you supposed to vacate that title? And this, this brings us to a whole other thing, right? We had a whole conversation a couple weeks ago about why is there a Raw Women's Championship and then there's not a Raw Men's Championship? You go, well, okay, it's the WWE Championship. They don't call it the Men's Championship, right? So if Big E is the WWE Champion and he switches brands, well, the title goes with him because it's not brand specific.
Right.
Why are the women's titles brand specific? It makes no sense to me.
Right. It doesn't at all.
Oh, shout out to Chad, who's apparently still hungover. Sorry, Chad.
Poor Chad.
So I think there was a myriad of ways that they could have gotten out of this that would have made sense, that would have made for more compelling TV. When you're on a show where you've got the Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns dynamic, you've got an amazing story that's being told over a year's time now. And the women, they go, just swap the titles. Just hand them over and we'll move on from there. It's a huge wasted opportunity for two highly paid, highly skilled top stars in the industry. They could have used them in a much better way, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my quick opinion on that, do you think the superstars on each show have a preference where they want to be, regardless if they're told, hey, you're going here, McMahon tells you to go there, you got to go there? Do you think a lot of these talents, to you and Deb Front Row, do you think a lot of these talents, hey, you know what, I want to be on SmackDown. SmackDown's where it's at right now, where Raw used to be for all those years. Or do you think talent says, you know what, I'll get a better eye on Raw if I go to Raw? Do you guys have an opinion on what superstars might think on what show they would want to personally be on themselves?
I do know I have heard in some interviews that some people do have a preference for show, just depending on like what they grew up watching, what they were like. I believe I heard in an interview once that Miz likes to be on SmackDown more. But some of them do have a preference because of what they grew up watching, what they grew up loving, and they might just enjoy being on that show more. But things have changed so much over the last few years that you don't really know what's better, or what would fit each personality better.
Yeah, and I think if I'm a WWE superstar and I am an independent contractor building my brand, do I want to be on Raw, which used to be the flagship show that gets 1.5 million viewers, or do I want to be on network television on Friday with 2.5 million viewers? No, I want 1 million more people to see me every week, so I would want to be on SmackDown.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to say. No, just real quick, it's kind of weird to say that both shows switch, because I never thought SmackDown would be tops until they left USA and went to Fox.
Yeah, once you're on network TV, network broadcast television is just that's where it's at. You're going to get so many more viewers. And and we always have the ratings conversation. Like, ratings don't really mean anything because the actual viewership is streaming, it's YouTube, it's clips, it's the engagement and the interaction of the audience is so much broader than just what the Nielsen ratings are. And I think I read an article recently that the big companies are now starting to shift away from using Nielsen altogether.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I read the same thing as well. Yeah, a lot of companies are saying they just get rid of the whole system because it's not accurate anymore.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I did want to I just want to move on and give a shout out to our friend Thunder Rosa. Yesterday was her 7-year wrestling anniversary. If you get a chance, go on her social media today. She posted a lengthy, rather heartfelt, impassioned post. And anybody who's interacted with her, if you've met her, that's her. She's very intense and very, very, very passionate about this stuff. So I expect big things for her, in the years to come now that she's on the bigger stage. I also wanted to mention, with regards to social media, Deb is now our social media manager, and she's going to be handling a lot of that for the show. She's really good at tweeting, really, really good. And she remembers to do it, which I don't.
Deb, just remember, tweet out HJM every hour on top of the hour, please.
Okay. All right.
Congrats, Deb. Go
Will
for it.
do.
You can take care of that and you can handle that. Go, girl.
I'll just tweet out random things and just put a signature line HJM so people think it's you.
Just all emojis.
Yes.
There's 277 emojis here.
I'm counting.
Yes.
So no, I want to thank you, Deb, for taking that on, because as our show is growing, we're trying to get the word out there more, and Hijacker and I have been trying to share that responsibility, but it's just there's 4 platforms and a lot going on, and we need the help.
It gets tough.
So
Right.
It's tough. I get busy with my job and I can't get on there, and sometimes I'm MIA for weeks at a time, and it'd be nice to have Deb to help us out and jump on there and hit us, in the back and say, hey, pick up the pace, and she'll help us out there. So cool, Deb.
yeah, and Deb uses punctuation, which I'm not always good at. So.
Yeah, I might use lingo that not everybody understands, so perfect.
Well, my father is a college English professor. If I didn't use punctuation, I'd probably be killed.
Yeah, Chad says that you beat him out for the role, although I don't know that Chad knows how to use Twitter or Facebook. He knows Facebook. I'm not sure about the rest of it.
He doesn't know FaceTime. That's for sure.
No, I saw the screen grabs. They were not good. All right. So let's move on. So I wanted to cover. So we were on a call the other day. We were on Zoom, and Brian Rosa was kind enough to join us for a little while and talk a little bit about Mission Pro and some of the stuff they have coming up. Of course, tonight is their big pay-per-view, Don't Fear the Reaper, and every show they have such a great mix of like well-known talent and up-and-comers, debuting talents, people who are returning. And some veterans on there. So tonight's a really exciting show. There's some cool matchups on here, but for me, one of the matchups that I'm really looking forward to is Kylan King versus Genocide. For those who have been fans of Mission Pro or AEW or NWA, you've seen Genocide and Kylan King everywhere in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And they're both two, bigger, stronger women, and it's 2 powerhouses. So I'll be interested to see, how this one works out.
Yeah, I love Genocide. She is definitely a force to be reckoned with coming up in the scene. And Kylan King, I really enjoyed watching her as part of the Nightmare family in the vlogs. Cody was doing a bit on Sammy's vlog with the Nightmare family. She was great on that. She's great in the ring. We see them both everywhere these days.
Yeah.
I
have a feeling. No, real quick. I have a feeling that match is going to be similar to the one we saw in Buda front row of Holly Dead and Genocide. I have a feeling that's going to be a very similar match, physical and hard hitting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And just to speak on Holided's facing Jody Threat, who's making her Mission Pro debut. Jody's been around a while. She's a very skilled veteran. That's gonna be a good match because, as you said, Holided is no joke. I had the chance to interview Holided back on our previous show when we were in Buda, and she's a scary individual. She's a little scary.
Yeah,
F
I was
around and
right
find
there
out
watching
is
that whole interview.
yeah, F around and find out is her deal, and it's for real, for real. Someone else that's debuting tonight that I'm excited about is Willow Nightingale. And the Willow Nightingale is facing Vipers. And Willow is someone we saw here a lot in Queens of Combat for a few years, and then she had a really bad injury. I think she had a back injury, and it looked like she was going to have to retire, and she was out for a while. She's back now, and she made her return recently. I think she did a GCW match not that long ago. But this is going to be really cool. To see her in the ring again doing her thing is very exciting. She used to be the tag team. She was a tag team champion here along with Faye Jackson. And if you know Faye, follow Faye on social media. She's a riot. So I'm looking forward to that one. And one of the other ones that I'm looking forward to, of course, is our championship match, La Rosa Negra versus top tier Jasmine Allure. And we've had a chance to interview both of those folks, both of those women in Buda. I have to go with La Rosa Negra, but you never know what's going to happen. So it's going to be an interesting one. But speaking of Mission Pro, and listeners of Busted Open know, Thunder Rosa was on this week, and there was a lot of shit talking, and it looks like there's going to be a matchup on November 20th in Conroe, Texas. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that all unfolds. Stay tuned to the socials because I think you're going to see a lot more between now and then. And who knows, things might change.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah. So check that out tonight.
Has under his sleeve.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I fear for his safety.
Yeah, he's going to need more security than he did in Buda, I take it.
Yeah, probably. I don't know how many friends he has in Conroe, but I guess we'll find out. So that's tonight. That's tonight. Immediately following this show at 8:30. Right after the show at 7:30 Central, we'll be tuned to Title Match Network to check out Mission Pro. Also tonight is Bound for Glory. Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory. And in all honesty, I don't watch Impact every week, but I try to catch the major pay-per-views and stay tuned to the storylines. And there's some cool stuff on this card. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look, but they talked about it yesterday on the show. They've been talking about it all week. Deonna Purrazzo is defending her title against Mickie James. And, we had a chance to see Mickie in action in St. Louis for the NWA weekend for Empower and for 73 and for the tapings. Mickie hasn't lost a step. She's really, really good.
No.
Yeah.
And both ladies were in Baltimore last weekend when we were there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mickie has absolutely proven that there is no age limit to women in wrestling. A lot of people have this weird idea that once a woman has a baby or gets to a certain age, their career's over. And she's absolutely proving that's wrong.
Yeah, she's in phenomenal shape. She can go. It's funny that WWE didn't let her release her full potential in her second run with the company recently. And you know what? Shame on them. Shame on them for what they did, how they ended her last run and probably her final run, because I seriously doubt if she would ever go back. But she can go in the ring. She can still hold the crowd. She can still pull people in. She is a real deal superstar in the pro wrestling world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So, and we talked about this, I think, a few weeks ago about age. And I look at someone like Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler's 41, and she is as dangerous as she's ever been.
Right.
I wouldn't mess with her. I don't know anybody who would.
Right.
So
not even HJM, brother.
That's a smart man. So I don't think we have a time to run through the whole card, but the main event on this card is going to be Christian Cage defending his Impact World Championship against Josh Alexander. And if you saw the promo that Josh cut from this week's Impact, man, it was a really good promo. And I don't even follow the product, and I'm like, oh man, I got to see this. Like, he was impassioned. He talked about, Christian cashing a check from a billionaire from another company, and it was really good. Like, I had never seen this guy cut a promo like this. So it was, as the kids say, fire. Did I say that right? No.
Yes.
You found a new word, huh, front row?
I did.
No cap.
I spent the weekend with Hijacker, so he taught me some things.
West Coast lingo.
Exactly. Yeah. So I did want to. Actually, Deb, you mentioned being restricted in WWE, and that leads me to coverage of last night's GCW. We were up late watching GCW last night, the Bloodsport pay-per-view. It was awesome. And I'm a big fan of Bloodsport because if you take pro wrestling and MMA and you slide that dial a little bit more towards MMA, it's still like a work, but not 100%. And it's faster, it's grittier, it's more combat-like than what you see in It's a lot more combat-like than you see in WWE. But it's like it's a lot more intense. So if you've ever seen Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, last night is one worth going. If you didn't see it last night, it's worth going back and checking out. And the reason I mention that is Masha Slamovich faced Marina Shafir, recently released from WWE. Marina Shafir, one of the four horsewomen of MMA, along with Jessamine Duke, Shayna Baszler, and Ronda Rousey. I had never really seen Marina fight. Like, I've seen clips of her fighting. She was intense. She was incredible. Go back and just watch the clips from that match, and check it out, because she is unreal. And I hope that they do more with her in GCW and maybe one of the other bigger promotions, because she looked badass. Just so physical, and you get to see, she was a champion at 15 years old. So she's had nothing but success in the MMA world and in the fight game. I'm excited to see where she goes. The main event last night was Minoru Suzuki, and if you haven't seen Minoru Suzuki live, he's incredible. We're gonna see Minoru Suzuki tonight on the pay-per-view, the actual GCW pay-per-view, facing Nick Gage, and I don't know where they're going to go with that, because typically Nick Gage is a deathmatch guy. Minoru Suzuki is a fighter, so it'll be interesting to see. But if you get a chance, go back and watch that GCW pay-per-view, because Bloodsport's putting on some really interesting matchups.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Deb. I wanted you to talk about this because you and I had a chance to talk about this the other day, and I think they just released the brackets for the TBS Championship. So the TBS Championship is a singles women's championship, which I think is really super cool. That it's going to be a television branded championship on a big network. TBS is a bigger network than TNT, where they are now. And it's going to be specifically a women's title defended, on that show. It's a pretty interesting lineup that they have of people in these brackets. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the brackets from last night.
I did. Let me pull it up real fast. Hold on.
Okay. As you're pulling that up, I'll just list off. There are four buys for the week one, for the round one rather, and that's Thunder Rosa, Jade Cargill, Nyla Rose, and Chris Statlander.
Okay, I see it now. Yeah. Yeah, that's it's going to be very interesting. I do agree with the first round buys. I think those are good choices to have as the first round buys, the top four women. I'm really happy that they chose to have this additional title for the women. I think, they probably would have had some backlash if they decided to add a third men's title while keeping only one women's title, singles title anyway. So, I'm really, really happy that they chose to do this. I like the way this tournament is going to be set up. So, we'll see how it plays out, and we'll see who ends up winning. I know Nyla Rose was on Busted Open talking about how, she definitely wants to take it and she's hunting for it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so I think if we were talking about this earlier, but the King of the Ring and the Queen's Crown tournaments just had their culmination at the Saudi pay-per-view, and the entire Queen's Crown tournament, entrances, matches, everything, were 19 minutes.
Yeah.
The entire tournament. Last night's opening segment with Brock and Roman was 32 minutes.
Right.
That one segment.
So you're telling me all the matches they had on Raw and SmackDown leading up to it was just a total of 19 minutes?
No, what I'm telling you is the entire tournament, including the finals on the pay-per-view, in 19 minutes. The whole thing.
Wow. The whole thing from first round to the finals.
Yeah, everything up to and including the finals. If you take the finals out of it, those matches and the qualifiers and stuff, those matches add up to Roman's entrance.
Wow, that's insane. Yeah. That's unfair, dude. That is not fair. I thought we turned the page a couple years ago and we were headed in the right direction, but it looks like we're slipping back in the crack again with the women's wrestling division in WWE and falling back through, man. Yeah, that's fun. That's not fair.
Which is why I'm curious to know what you guys think about. It's interesting that they have this women's tournament in AEW with some of the biggest stars in their company. Are they gonna go in the other way and actually put a focus on it?
I hope so. With WWE, I'm not sure where the disconnect is because, we had a women's revolution, which was great. We saw a lot of really, really good female athletes come up and really showcase the talent that they have. And for a couple years there, the women were highly paid attention to, and now they have slipped back and they have so much talent. They have incredibly talented athletic women who aren't just models, and it's like they don't know what to do with them. If your name is not Charlotte or Becky Lynch, they don't know what to do with them, and it's very frustrating as a viewer.
Yeah, and as we just talked about, they don't know what to do with those people either.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll touch on my point here before I have to take off for the rest of the day. I don't know what WWE is doing. Remember, they used to have a full roster of at least 10 women on each show, and they were giving them 1 to 2 matches per night on Raw and SmackDown before, the brands split channel. Well, Raw is still on USA and SmackDown is now on Fox, but they used to give them 7 to 10 minute matches instead of their typical 3 minutes, and that was damn near sometimes including their quick entrances, not if they came back from a commercial and put them already in the ring with their music playing. AEW is killing the game right now. WWE is dust in the wind because AEW is putting out the better product people want to see. Now, I don't know if people care about the age demographics or anything about it, but AEW is knocking WWE out of the box. WWE seems like they don't care. It's like, hey, we've been around longer. We're here. We're going to give you what we want, keyword, we want, and you're just going to follow us because you want to follow us. Hey, that's not the way to do things. You want to keep your followers happy. So give us a little bit of what we want, then put on your show. I understand it's your job to entertain us, but don't entertain us like that where you're scaling back. Now each roster only has a handful of women on it, and it's a little sad in my opinion. But we digress on it. Guys, I'm sorry I have to go a little early, but thank you for allowing me to join to talk about Baltimore and a little bit of wrestling with you guys. Until next time around, you guys have a great rest of the show, and I'll catch up with you guys later on tonight.
All right, thanks, Hijacker. Safe travels.
Good night.
Thank you, brother. Thanks, sis.
So that's the thing too that I was thinking about. So if AEW has a lot of talent, they've signed more talent, they've got a lot more people there now, but I don't feel like on Dynamite they still put the right focus on the women's division. I think that you have Thunder Rosa, who we haven't seen on Dynamite in forever. What are they do? What are they doing with her now? Of course, selfishly, I'm hoping that she wins that tournament and becomes a TBS champion. But I agree with Hijacker from the perspective that they do focus on women a little bit more, especially on Dark and Elevation, which is they've had a ton of great women's matches on those shows. Every week it's like stacked with talent. But why isn't that transferring onto Dynamite and Rampage every week?
Right. And I think some of it may be that they have a lot of these women who are in the developmental territory that they're putting on Dark and Elevation. And I do really like the system that they're doing with Dark and Elevation, and that being kind of the developmental show, the shows to test out the talent that's not signed yet. But I agree with you that they need to showcase those women a little bit more on Dynamite and Rampage. But they're doing a great job so far of building their talent. Not just focusing on one or two people, but slowly building up the others as well. We just saw an amazing match with Anna Jay. Anna just came back from injury. So, she had a phenomenal match, and that was really highlighted. So I think they're getting there. It's, they still got some work to do, but they're definitely getting there, and they're definitely working on it.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought it was a huge thing that they had the opportunity that Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa had the lights out match to main event Dynamite. And it was the most talked about thing for weeks. Like it even now, they both cite it, people in the wrestling world cite it as one of the best matches of the year, male or female. And so they do have the talent there. We saw Serena Deeb turn heel this week against Hikaru Shida, and Hikaru Shida is one of the best that they have there. So if you're going to tell me that you're going to have a non-title feud between Shida and Deeb, I'm good. Like, let me see that every week, though. Let me see them have matches or stories, or let's build that up a little bit. So some of the other matches on AEW tonight. We've got another Malachi Black Cody Rhodes match. It's their third matchup. I'm sure it's going to be great. I just haven't been totally invested in this story.
I agree. I love Malachi Black. Every time he comes out, I'm super excited. And yeah, it's gonna be an amazing match. But they haven't quite gotten there with explaining why there is this rivalry. There's clearly a rivalry with Malachi Black and the rest of the Nightmare family, but why? And, hopefully they straighten that out for us.
Yeah, and I know Sean's in here too. Sean's invested as well, and that's awesome. I think it's a decent story. Just for me, I think that they could be doing other things with Malachi right now, but we'll see. A couple of the matches on the card tonight. We get Dustin Rhodes versus Bryan Danielson. Let's go. Bryan Danielson has been having banger after banger every week. Every time he's in the ring with somebody else, he's reminding them why he's one of the best in the world. And he said, I didn't come here to coach youngsters. I didn't come here to raise new talent or to elevate younger talent. I came here to show you why I'm the best and why you need to step up your game. I'll show you what being elite really means. And I don't think this is going to be any different than the other matches as far as equality.
Yeah, I will say when we went to AEW in Philly a few weeks ago now, at the beginning of the month, Bryan Danielson is still getting used to it. He had a match there, and when we went back and watched the footage on BTE, they had Brandon Cutler's always carrying the camera around, and he had the footage from inside the ring. It's absolutely mesmerizing. I recommend everybody to go watch that episode of BTE because you will see up close why Bryan Danielson is one of the best. Just watching his footwork, watching him constantly moving, never taking a moment to stop and breathe. It's very, very good. And you can sit there and watch the video and go, wow, yeah, he really is the best.
And I get the feeling like he's really having fun.
Yes, I get that too.
So, there's a couple other interesting things coming up tonight. Lance Archer versus Eddie Kingston. And, of course, round one of the TBS Championship Tournament, Penelope Ford versus Ruby Soho. My money is on Ruby Soho going to the finals. Selfishly, again, I would like to see Thunder, but I think my brain says it's probably going to end up being Jade Cargill just because they're putting such a focus on her and she has such a presence. Right. I'm not a wrestler. I've never been in the ring, so who am I to say? But some of the women in that tournament are much better wrestlers. So let's, we'll call it as it is.
We'll see. We'll see.
Okay, so I know Dynamite's starting. I'm going to get everybody over there so they can go watch their things. We've got Mission Pro is on at 8:30. And, of course, Impact is starting, and GCW tonight at 11. And there's an NWA show tomorrow, which they're taping for the next 2 weeks of Power, so you don't have to worry about watching a pay-per-view tomorrow. Let's take some time off. And Monday's really a day off because nobody's watching. So it's fine. So anything else you want to talk about, Deb, before we let folks go?
No, I think we've touched on everything that we want to touch on. Now let's go watch Dynamite.
Cool. Want to hit the socials for us?
I am at That's So Debonair. We are all at Nation's Corner on Twitter, at The Nation's Corner, and everything else.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again next week.